Hey, it's Software Student here, and today I'm going to show a pretty simple example of how to create a server and a client side inside Java, where I'll create a TCP server, which means it's a server that needs to be connected to my client in this case, and I will be using sockets, Java sockets, and threads. But first I will just show what it does, and then I'll go through the code afterwards. So we kind of have three components. I have a server, where I will start the server, and the server will then wait for someone, a client in this case, to connect to the server, and whenever someone connects, I will start a new thread, which would kind of handle the interaction between my server and the client, which in this case just would take input from the client, where the client would input the name, and then the server would respond with, hey, name, have a nice day, or something like that. So let's just try doing it. So first I start my TCP server, and as mentioned, it will be waiting for a connection. So first it will just say server waiting, and right now it's in a waiting state. And I will then go inside my second client, which I will start as well. And I will, in this case, I'm able to run multiple streams from my program at the same time. So what the server does, it's waiting. Then it's connected, and I print to the screen which port we're connected at. And then it actually starts over and waits for another client, and then we start some interaction between the server and the client. And interaction works in the way where our server prints to our client, server ready, type your name, and I will type my name Daniel and hit enter, and the server just types request handler done. So it handles some request, which was take the name, and then it printed back to my client, hey Daniel, have a wonderful day. And right now my client stopped because it's just running like one cycle, but my server is actually still running. So what I could actually do is I could just go back to my client and actually run the program again, and I'll get the same interaction. Server ready, type your name, whatever, and just go, hey, whatever, have a wonderful day. So let's have a look at how it works. So I need to close my server, because otherwise it's going to keep running. Because let's first have a look at the server. So how this all works is we are using the ports in Java, which is in this case just int is just a number, but what we use these ports, number 2 is with the server socket, or inside my second client is just a socket. There we go, a socket. And the point is, so my server is waiting at a specific port position, which is like internet port, for some input, and then when the client looks at this same port, they connect and then they create a new one. So we're actually looking at port 2222. But as you saw in the program, if I just run it again, you can actually see that even though we are connecting or looking at port 2222, 2222, we're actually connected in this case at port 62,214. So we're not connecting at this specific port, but they're finding a free port and then talking through this port, and we are using local hosting. So I'm not connecting through anything, we just connected locally. But let's close these again. So what happens with the server is we first have a port number, which I will just give in my public static void main when I create my server with a given port number. I will then be able to start my server. And when I start, I just create this while loop, which is why the server keeps running. So first we just print the server waiting. Then we wait for a connection with a socket. We have a server socket connected to a new socket, which is so we're looking for a socket, which would be the socket we got from our client, which I'll show shortly. So we get this socket from our client, and then we print to the screen again which port we connect to, and then we have a request handler, which is just an object where all the handling or the interaction is created. So I create another class. So this class is taking care of the entire interaction, and the interaction works where we have a scanner for input streams and a print writer for the output stream. And we're auto-flossing, which means after each line we're printing, we are sending the message. So we're first writing to our client, server ready, type your name. So let's actually run it again and just walk through it step by step. So first, server writes, server waiting. We're waiting for a connection to a client. We start our client. Then the server writes which port we're connected to, and it actually starts over and goes already server waiting again, but otherwise it also types requested handler started for the same port, which is our request handler, which as mentioned writes starting for the given port. We then have our input and output, and we write with our output stream server ready, type your name, and that's why it shows up inside our client side, because it's written from our server to our client. We then have our client as well. It's printing to the screen the input from the server. So we're like writing back and forward, where one is sending and one is receiving. Then after receiving, we're doing like the opposites, where our request handler is waiting for our next line. So we are again waiting for next line. So now we're able to write here, where we with our client takes the input through our scanner, which is our input stream. So we used our scanner, which is just called the keyboard in this case. And we take an output stream, so we are printing to the server keyboard.nextLine, which we then, as mentioned, read on the server. And then the server, after reading in the request handler, the next line, getting the next line, it then prints back the message, and our socket prints the red message. So it's a lot of back and forward. And then in the end, very important, we just close the input stream and the output stream inside our socket client, and we just stop our request handler because it's a runnable. So it is inside a new thread. The thread is over and it stops. And therefore we are able to actually keep connecting to our server, because the server keeps running. As mentioned, it just starts over. It actually already starting over even before the thread starts, because the thread takes some time to start. So as mentioned, we can just keep going and keep going. But this is the basic setup where we're able to read and write back and forward, where we have these connections where some is writing, some is reading, some is reading, some is writing, back and forward, where we're able to use these ports firstly, where they're both set to this port 2222 to create a connection, and then we can send on a local, in this case local hosted connection, back and forward. And of course this can get highly complicated, but this is just a very basic setup of writing back and forward. So if you enjoyed this video and this explanation, please leave a like and subscribe, and I wish you all a wonderful day.